If you've ever had your entire life rewritten in a single moment, you'll understand why I'm finally telling this story. My name is Margaret, and for over 40 years, I believed I knew everything about my marriage, my family, and myself. But the truth was waiting for me in a sealed envelope, one that would shatter everything I thought I knew, and force me to face the secrets I never wanted to see. I live in a small, windswept village on the coast of northern France. Our home is a stone cottage with blue shutters, perched on a hill above the sea. My husband Henry was the village doctor for over 30 years, a man everyone trusted, a man I trusted with my whole heart. We raised 2 children together, built a life full of traditions, laughter, and the kind of quiet love that grows deeper with time. Henry died suddenly, just after his 65th birthday. The grief was a tidal wave, but I clung to my children, to our memories, to the routines that kept me afloat. I thought the worst was behind me, but then, a week after the funeral, the notary called. Henry had left a letter for me, to be opened only after his death. I sat at our old oak kitchen table, hands trembling, as I broke the seal. The words inside changed everything. My dearest Margaret, if you are reading this, I am gone. There is something I have kept from you, not out of malice, but out of fear and shame. Many years ago, before we were married, I had a brief affair. I never told you because I thought it was over. But last year, I learned I have a daughter. Her name is Camille. She lives in Paris. I have met her only once, but she is my child. I am so sorry. I hope you can forgive me. Please, find her. She deserves to know her family. With all my love, Henry. I read the letter again and again, my mind refusing to accept the words, Henry, a secret daughter, in Paris. I felt betrayed, furious, and heartbroken all at once. I wanted to scream at him, to ask him why he had lied, why he had left me to deal with this alone. I hid the letter in my bedside drawer, unable to face my children, Luke and Sophie, with the truth. For days, I walked through the house in a daze, haunted by questions. Who was Camille? Did she know about us? Had Henry loved her? Had he loved me? I started to notice things I'd never seen before. Old receipts from Paris, a photograph tucked into one of Henry's books, a necklace I didn't recognize. The pieces of my life no longer fit together. I tried to keep up appearances. The village was still bringing casseroles and flowers, neighbors stopping by with condolences and stories about Henry. I smiled, thanked them, and closed the door, feeling like an imposter in my own home. Luke, my eldest, was the first to notice something was wrong. He found me one morning sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, the letter hidden beneath a pile of bills. "Maman, are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentle. I forced a smile. "Just tired, darling. There's so much to do." He nodded, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Luke had always been sensitive, always the peacemaker in our family. He took after Henry in so many ways, steady, kind, always putting others first. Sophie, on the other hand, was restless, angry. She threw herself into work, staying late at the bakery, coming home with flour in her hair and exhaustion in her bones. She barely spoke to me, barely spoke to anyone. I knew she was grieving, but I didn't know how to reach her. One night, unable to sleep, I took out Henry's letter and read it again. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. I thought about our life together, the early years in Paris, the move to the village, the children, the quiet evenings by the fire. I thought about the secrets we had kept from each other, the things we had never said. I wondered if I had ever really known him at all. A week passed before I found the courage to call the number Henry had left for Camille. My hands shook as I dialed, my heart pounding in my chest. A young woman answered. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Hola." I hesitated, then spoke. "Is this Camille?" "Yes." "Who is this?" I took a deep breath. "My name is Margaret. I am Henry's wife." There was a long silence. Then, quietly, "I wondered if you would call." Her voice was calm, but I could hear the pain beneath it. We agreed to meet in Paris, at a small cafe near the Seine. I told Luke and Sophie. Was visiting an old friend, unable to face their questions. The train ride to Paris was a blur. I watched the countryside roll past, fields of sunflowers and lavender giving way to the gray sprawl of the city. My mind raced with questions. What would I say to her? What would she look like? Would she hate me for being the wife, the woman, who had everything she never did? The cafe was small and quiet. tucked away on a side street. Camille was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, a book in her hands. She looked up as I entered, her eyes Henry's eyes meeting mine. She was beautiful, in a quiet, understated way. Dark hair pulled back in a loose bun, simple dress, no makeup. She stood as I approached, her hands trembling. "Margaret?" she asked. I nodded, unable to speak. We sat together in silence for a long moment, the city bustling outside, the world moving on, as if nothing had changed. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said finally. "Thank you," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. We talked for hours about Henry, about our lives, about the years we had lost. Camille told me about her mother, about growing up without a father, about the day Henry found her. She spoke with a quiet dignity, never blaming, never accusing. "I always wondered about him," she said. "I used to imagine what it would be like to have a father. When he came to see me, I was angry at first. But he was kind. He told me about you, about Luke and Sophie. He said he was sorry." I felt tears prick my eyes. "He was a good man. He made mistakes, but he loved us. He loved you too." She nodded, her eyes shining. "I know." When we parted, she hugged me, holding on a little longer than necessary. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "I didn't know if I would ever meet you." I returned to the village that night, my heart heavy but lighter than before. I knew I had to tell Luke and Sophie the truth, but I didn't know how. The next morning, I found Luke in the garden, pruning the roses. I sat beside him, the letter in my hand. "There's something I need to tell you," I began, my voice shaking. He listened in silence as I read Henry's letter aloud. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "I always thought Papa was perfect," he said finally. "But I suppose none of us are." I reached for his hand, grateful for his understanding. Sophie was harder. She stormed out of the room when I told her, slamming the door behind her. I heard her crying in her room, but she wouldn't let me in. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, the letter on the table, the house silent around me. I thought about Henry, about Camille, about the family we had built and the family we had lost. I realized that forgiveness is not a single act, but a journey, a choice we make every day, to let go of anger, to embrace hope, to believe in the possibility of healing. But as the days passed, I began to notice strange things. A car parked outside the house late at night, anonymous letters in the post, warning me to leave the past alone, whispers in the village, neighbors who turned away when I passed. I realized that Henry's secret was not just ours. Others knew perhaps more than I did. The mystery of Camille's existence was only the beginning, and as I lay awake at night, listening to the wind rattle the windows, I wondered what other secrets my husband had taken to his grave. The days after I met Camille were a blur of confusion and anxiety. I tried to return to my routines, watering the garden, baking bread, writing lists for the market, but nothing felt the same. The letter from Henry, the meeting in Paris, the look in Camille's eyes, all of it haunted me. I felt as if I were living in someone else's life, a stranger in my own home. Sophie barely spoke to me. She left early for the bakery and came home late, her face closed, her eyes red. Luke tried to keep the peace, but I could see the strain in his smile. The house was full of silences, the kind that press in on you, heavy and suffocating. I tried to talk to Sophie one evening, finding her in the kitchen, scrubbing the counter with unnecessary force. "Sophie, please," I said gently. "I know, this is hard, but we need to talk." She didn't look at me. "What's there to say, Maman? Papa lied to us. You lied to us. I don't even know who we are anymore." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't know. I wish I had." She shook her head, her voice breaking. "I just want things to go back to the way they were." I wanted that too, but I knew it was impossible. The village, once a place of comfort, now felt hostile. I noticed the way people looked at me, pitying, sometimes even cold. I heard whispers in the bakery, saw neighbors cross the street to avoid me. I wondered how much they knew, how much they guessed. One morning, I found an envelope in the mailbox. No return address, just my name written in a shaky hand. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Leave the past alone. Some secrets are better left buried." My hands shook as I read the words. I looked around, half expecting to see someone watching from behind a curtain. The street was empty, but I felt exposed, vulnerable. I didn't tell Luke or Sophie about the letter. I didn't want to worry them, didn't want to add to the weight they were already carrying. But I kept the letter in my pocket, a constant reminder that Henry's secret was not just ours. A few days later, Luke came to me in the garden, his face troubled. "Maman, have you noticed anything strange?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "I've had some odd letters, and there's been a car parked outside at night." He frowned. "I've seen it too. A dark Peugeot. I thought maybe it was just someone visiting, but it's there almost every night." A chill ran through me. "Do you think it has something to do with Camille?" Luke shrugged. "I don't know, but I think we should be careful." That night, I lay awake, listening for the sound of a car engine, the crunch of tires on gravel. I wondered if I should call Camille, warn her. But what would I say? That someone was watching us, that the past was reaching out, refusing to let go. The next morning, I decided to visit the notary who had given me Henry's letter. His office was in the next town, a cramped room filled with dusty books and the smell of old paper. Monsieur Lefebvre was a kind man, with a gentle voice and a habit of cleaning his glasses when he was nervous. "Madame Dubois," he greeted me. "How can I help you?" I sat across from him, the letter from Henry in my bag. "I need to know if there's anything else. Anything Henry left for me, or for the children." He looked through his files, frowning. "There is one thing. A safety deposit box, in Henry's name. He left instructions that it be opened only by you." My heart pounded. "Where is it?" He handed me a key and an address. "The bank in Paris. You'll need to go in person." I thanked him, my mind racing. What else had Henry hidden from me? What would I find in that box? I decided to go alone. I told Luke and Sophie I was visiting a friend, not wanting to worry them. The train ride to Paris was tense, my thoughts swirling with fear and curiosity. The bank was grand and intimidating, all marble floors and polished brass. The clerk led me to a small room, handed me the key, and left me alone. My hands shook as I opened the box. Inside was a stack of documents, a velvet pouch, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. I opened the envelope first. "Margaret, if you are reading this, you have found Camille. I hope you have forgiven me. There is something else you need to know. The money in the account is for her. I set it aside after I met her, to help her start a new life. Please, give it to her. She deserves it. I am sorry for all the pain I have caused. With love, Henry." I felt a wave of relief and sorrow. Henry had tried, in his own way, to make amends. I looked through the documents, bank statements, letters, photographs. There was a picture of Camille as a child, a lock of her hair in the velvet pouch, a letter from her mother. I sat in the quiet of the bank, tears streaming down my face. I thought about Henry, about the choices he had made, about the family he had built and the family he had lost. When I returned to the village, I called Camille. We met again in Paris, this time in a park by the river. I gave her the envelope, the money, the letters. She cried as she read Henry's words. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "I just wanted to know where I came from." I hugged her, holding her close. "Your family, Camille, that's all that matters now." We sat together for a long time, watching the boats drift by, the city alive with possibility. Back home, things were changing. Sophie was still distant, but I saw her watching me, her anger softening. Luke was a steady presence, helping in the garden, fixing things around the house, making sure I was never alone. But the letters kept coming, each one more threatening than the last. "You don't know the whole story. Stop digging, or you'll regret it." I started to feel afraid in my own home. I checked the locks twice before bed, kept the curtains drawn, jumped at every sound. I wondered who was sending the letters, what they wanted, what they knew. One night, I heard footsteps outside. I looked through the window and saw a figure, standing by the gate, watching the house. I called Luke, but by the time he came, the figure was gone. We reported it to the police, but they found nothing. "Probably just a prank," they said. "People get strange ideas when there's a scandal." But I knew it was more than that. Someone wanted to keep the past buried. I decided to confront Sophie. I found her in her room, sitting on the bed, staring at an old photograph of Henry. "Sophie, please," I said, sitting beside her. "Talk to me." She looked at me, her eyes full of pain. "Why did he do it, Maman? Why did he lie to us?" I shook my head, tears in my eyes. "I don't know. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he thought he was protecting us." She looked away. "I miss him. I miss the way things used to be." I hugged her, holding her close. "Me too, darling. But we have to move forward. We have to forgive him, and each other." She nodded, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The next day, I received another letter. This one was different, no threats, just a single sentence. Ask Henry about the summer of 1985. I stared at the words, my mind racing. What had happened that summer? I tried to remember. Henry had been away for a few weeks. A medical conference, he said. But now I wondered if that was the truth. I searched through his things, looking for clues. In an old diary, I found an entry from July 1985. Met with Jay in Paris. She knows. I have to make a choice. Who was Jay? What did she know? What choice did Henry have to make? I felt the old fear return, the sense that I was standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath my feet. I called Camille, asking if she knew anything about that summer. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "My mother always said that was the summer everything changed. She never told me why." I thanked her, promising to keep her updated. That night, I dreamed of Henry, standing at the edge of the sea, calling to me. I woke with a start, my heart pounding, the taste of salt on my lips. I knew I had to find the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I packed a bag and took the train to Paris. I visited the address on one of the old letters from the safety deposit box. It was a small apartment building in Montmartre, the kind with peeling paint and flower boxes on the windowsills. I knocked on the door, my hands shaking. An elderly woman answered, her eyes sharp and curious. "Can I help you?" she asked. I introduced myself, explained who I was, why I had come. She nodded, inviting me in. I knew Henry. He was a good man, but he had secrets. We all did. We sat together in her tiny kitchen, drinking strong coffee, sharing stories. She told me about the summer of 1985, about the choices Henry had made, about the people he had tried to protect. "He loved you, Margaret," she said, "but he was afraid of losing everything." I left the apartment with more questions than answers, but also with a sense of resolve. I would find the truth, no matter what it cost. When I returned to the village, I found Luke and Sophie waiting for me. They had found another letter, this one addressed to all of us. The past is never really gone. It lives in the choices we make, the secrets we keep. If you want peace, you must face the truth. We sat together in the kitchen, the letter on the table, the weight of our family's history pressing down on us. "I think it's time we talked to Camille," Luke said quietly. I nodded, feeling a strange sense of hope. Maybe, together, we could finally lay the past to rest. The kitchen was quiet as we sat around the table, the latest letter lying between us like a challenge. The past is never really gone. It lives in the choices we make, the secrets we keep. If you want peace, you must face the truth. Luke was the first to speak. "We need to talk to Camille. All of us. No more secrets." Sophie nodded, her face pale but determined. "I want to know who she is. I want to know what Papa was hiding." I felt a strange mix of dread and relief. For so long, I had tried to protect my children from the pain of the past, but now I saw that the only way forward was through it. I called Camille that evening. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the nerves beneath her calm. "I'll come to the village," she said. "It's time." We agreed to meet the next day, in our garden beneath the old apple tree. I spent the morning baking bread and making coffee, my hands moving automatically as my mind raced with questions. What would we say to her? Would she feel like an intruder, or would she finally feel like family? When Camille arrived, she looked nervous but resolute. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back, her eyes Henry's eyes taking in every detail of the house and garden. Luke greeted her with a quiet kindness, while Sophie hung back, arms crossed, her expression guarded. We sat together in the garden, the late summer sun casting dappled shadows on the grass. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, Camille broke the silence. "I know this is strange. I know I'm a stranger to you, but I want to understand. I want to know who my father was. I want to know who you are." Luke nodded. "We want to know you too. We want to understand what happened." Sophie's voice was sharp, but there was pain beneath it. "Why did he keep you a secret? Why didn't he tell us?" Camille looked down at her hands. "He was afraid. He told me he didn't want to hurt you. He said he made mistakes, but he loved you all." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We all make mistakes, but we're here now. That's what matters." We spent the afternoon sharing stories about Henry, about our childhoods, about the lives we had lived apart. Camille told us about her mother, about growing up in Paris, about the day Henry found her. She spoke of longing, of anger, of the strange comfort she felt when she finally met her father. Luke shared memories of fishing trips with Henry, of long walks on the beach, of the quiet wisdom their father had passed down. Sophie was quieter, but as the afternoon wore on, she began to open up, sharing stories of baking with Henry, of the way he would sneak her extra pastries when he thought I wasn't looking. As the sun set, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. For the first time, it felt like we were a family broken, yes, but trying to heal. That night, after Camille left for her hotel, I found Sophie sitting in the garden, staring up at the stars. "Do you think she ever feel like one of us?" she asked. I sat beside her, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. "I hope so. I think she wants to." Sophie was quiet for a long time. "I'm angry, Maman. I'm angry at Papa, at you, at her. But I'm also tired of being angry." I squeezed her hand. "It's all right to feel that way. But we can't let anger be the only thing we feel." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I want to try. For you, for Luke, for Papa." The next morning, Camille returned, her face anxious but hopeful. We sat together in the kitchen, drinking coffee. The silence, comfortable now. "I want to know about the summer of 1985, I said quietly. "Do you remember anything? Did your mother ever talk about it?" Camille shook her head. "She always said that was the summer everything changed. She never told me why." I thought about the diary entry I had found in Henry's things. "Met with Jay in Paris. She knows I have to make a choice." Who was Jay? What did she know? What choice did Henry have to make? I decided to visit the elderly woman in Montmartre again. I asked Camille to come with me. The train ride to Paris was quiet. Both of us lost in thought. The city was alive with the energy of late summer, the streets crowded with tourists and locals alike. We made our way to the apartment building, climbing the narrow stairs to the third floor. The woman greeted us warmly, inviting us in for tea. Her name was Jean, and she had known Henry for decades. "He was a good man," she said, pouring tea into delicate china cups. "But he was haunted by the past. That summer, he was forced to choose between his old life and his new one." She looked at Camille, her eyes kind. "Your mother loved him, but she knew he belonged with Margaret. She let him go, but it broke her heart." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Why didn't he tell me?" Jean sighed. "He was afraid. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of hurting you. He thought he could keep the past separate from the present. But secrets have a way of finding their way to the surface." We sat together in silence, the weight of the past pressing down on us. When we returned to the village, I shared what I had learned with Luke and Sophie. We talked late into the night, piecing together the story of that summer, the choices Henry had made, the pain he had tried to spare us, the love that had survived despite everything. For the first time, I felt a sense of understanding, a sense that we could move forward. But the peace was short. Another letter arrived, this one more threatening than the last. "You think you know the truth, but there's more. Stop digging, or you'll regret it." I showed the letter to Luke. He frowned, his jaw tight. "We need to go to the police." We did, but the police were dismissive. "Probably just a prank," they said. "People get strange ideas when there's a scandal." But I knew it was more than that. Someone wanted to keep the past buried. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the moonlight dance on the sea. I thought about Henry, about Camille, about the choices we had all made. I wondered if forgiveness was possible, if healing was within reach. As dawn broke, I made a decision. I would not let fear control me. I would not let the past dictate my future. I called Camille, asking her to come to the village again. "There's something we need to do," I said. Together. The next day we gathered in the garden, me, Luke, Sophie, and Camille. I brought out the letters, the diary, the photographs. We laid them out on the table, piecing together the story of our family. We talked for hours, sharing memories, asking questions, filling in the gaps. We cried, we laughed, we forgave. As the sun set, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. For the first time, it felt like we were a family broken, yes, but healing. But as we cleared the table, Luke found another letter, tucked beneath a stack of photographs. "If you want the truth, look in the attic." My heart pounded. The attic. Henry had kept his secrets, where the past waited to be uncovered. We climbed the narrow stairs together, the four of us, our hearts pounding with fear and hope. In the attic, we found a box, old, dusty, locked. The key was taped to the bottom. Inside were more letters, more photographs, more pieces of the puzzle. As we read them together, the truth finally came into focus's story of love and loss, of betrayal and forgiveness, of a family broken and rebuilt. And as we stood together in the fading light, I realized that the past would always be a part of us, but it did not have to define us. We could choose forgiveness, we could choose love, we could choose each other. The attic was cold and musty, the air thick with dust and the scent of old paper. We stood together in the half-light, the four of Usme, Luke, Sophie, and Camilor, breaths visible in the chill. The box we'd found was heavier than it looked, its wood worn smooth by years of being handled, hidden, and perhaps even feared. Luke knelt and carefully peeled the brittle tape from the bottom, revealing a small brass key. He handed it to me, his eyes searching mine for reassurance. My hands trembled as I fit the key into the lock and turned it. The click echoed in the silence, and for a moment, none of us moved. Finally, I lifted the lid. Inside, the box was packed with letters, photographs, and a few small objects: a child's bracelet, a pressed flower, a faded ticket stub from a Paris cinema. The letters were bundled in groups, each tied with a different color of ribbon. Some were addressed to Henry, some to me, some to names I didn't recognize. I picked up the first bundle, tied with a blue ribbon. The handwriting was Henry's, but the letters were addressed to Jay. I remembered Jean, the woman in Montmartre, and felt a pang of guilt for all the years I'd never known about her place in Henry's life. I read the first letter aloud, my voice shaking. Jay, I don't know how to say goodbye. I don't know how to let go of the life we dreamed of. Margaret is kind, and I love her, but you are the echo in my heart. I hope you find happiness, even if it's not with MEH. Sophie looked away, her jaw clenched. Camille's eyes filled with tears. We read more letters, piecing together the story of Henry's life before me, the love he'd shared with Jean, the pain of letting her go. There were letters from Jean, 2 letters she'd written but never sent. Letters full of longing and regret, but it was the next bundle, tied with a red ribbon, that changed everything. These letters were from Henry to Camille's mother, Elise. They spanned years, from before Camille was born to just a few months before Henry's death. In them, Henry wrote about his guilt, his longing, his fear of being discovered. He wrote about Camille, about the first time he saw her, about the ache of not being able to be her father. Elise, I see her in the street sometimes, and my heart breaks. She has your eyes, your smile. I want to reach out, to tell her who I am, but I am a coward. I am sorry, H. Camille wept as she read her mother's words in reply, words of forgiveness, of understanding, of love that had survived betrayal. At the bottom of the box was a small, leather-bound journal. I opened it, recognizing Henry's neat, careful handwriting. The entries began in the summer of 1985. July 12, 1985, I met with Jay in Paris. She knows about Elise. She knows about Camille. I am afraid. I have to make a choice. July 15, 1985, I told Margaret I was at a conference. I lied. I spent the week with Elise and Camille. I wanted to be a father, but I am not brave enough. July 20, 1985, Jay says I must tell the truth. She says, secrets will destroy us. I know she is right, but I am afraid of losing everything. I closed the journal, my heart heavy. Henry had lived his life torn between love and fear, between the family he had built and the family he had left behind. We sat together in the attic, the box of secrets between us, the weight of the past pressing down. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Luke broke the silence. He was just a man. He made mistakes, but he tried to do the right thing. In the end, Sophie nodded, tears streaming down her face. I wish he had told us. I wish he had trusted us. Camille reached for my hand. I'm glad I know the truth, even if it hurts. I hugged her, holding her close. Your family, Camille, you always will be. We spent the next few days reading through the letters, talking late into the night, sharing memories and regrets. The pain was still there, but it was softer now, tempered by understanding. My mother, Henry's mother, came to visit. She was old and frail, her memory fading, but when she saw Camille, she smiled. You have your father's eyes, she said, her voice trembling. He loved you, you know, he loved all of you. Camille hugged her, tears in her eyes. Thank you. The village, too, began to change. The whispers faded, replaced by cautious acceptance. People stopped crossing the street to avoid us. Neighbors brought over cakes and flowers, invitations to church suppers and village fetes. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Sophie began to heal, slowly. She started spending more time at home, baking with me, helping in the garden. She even invited Camille to help her at the bakery, teaching her how to knead dough, how to shape the perfect baguette. Luke was a steady presence, always there when we needed him, always ready with a kind word or a gentle touch. And Camille blossomed. She found work at the local library, made friends in the village, started painting again. She brought color and light into our lives, her laughter a balm to our wounded hearts. But healing is never simple. There were still hard days, still moments when the pain of the past threatened to overwhelm us. But we faced them together, stronger for the love and forgiveness we had found. One evening, as we sat in the garden, Camille turned to me. "Do you think he ever really forgave himself?" she asked. I thought about it for a long moment. "I don't know. But I hope he knew we forgave him." She smiled, her eyes shining. "I think he did." As autumn turned to winter, our family found a new rhythm. We celebrated birthdays and holidays, invited friends for dinner, planted bulbs in the garden for spring. The pain of the past lingered, but it no longer defined us. One night, as the first snow fell, I found another letter in the mailbox. This one was addressed to me, in Henry's handwriting. "Margaret, if you are reading this, it means you have found the truth. I am sorry for all the pain I have caused. I hope you can forgive me. I hope you can find peace. Thought with all my love, Henry." I sat by the fire, the letter in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I thought about Henry, about Camille, about Luke and Sophie, about the family we had built from the ashes of the past. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give to ourselves. Before I continue, if any part of this feels familiar to your life, you're not alone. Subscribe to Myla Story. We're all healing together. As the days grew longer and the world turned green again, I found myself thinking about the future. I wondered what new challenges we would face, what new secrets might come to light. I knew there would be hard days, but I also knew we were strong enough to face them together, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful.
The first snow of winter blanketed our village in silence, softening the edges of the world and making everything seem new. I watched from the kitchen window as Sophie and Camille built a snowman in the garden, their laughter rising above the hush. Luke joined them, tossing snowballs, his cheeks red with cold and joy. For a moment, I let myself believe that we had finally found peace. But peace, I had learned, is fragile. It must be tended, protected, and sometimes fought for. The letter from Henry sat on the mantel, a silent witness to our days. I read it often, tracing the words with my fingers, searching for meaning, for absolution. I wondered if I would ever truly forgive him or myself for the secrets we had kept, the pain we had caused. My mother-in-law, Henry's mother, visited often now. She was frail, her memory fading, but she brought warmth and stories, filling the house with memories of Henry as a boy. She and Camille grew close, sharing quiet afternoons by the fire, knitting and talking in low voices. I saw in them a healing I hadn't dared hope for. Sophie, too, was changing. She invited Camille to help at the bakery, teaching her the family recipes, laughing as they dusted each other with flour. The villagers, once wary, began to accept Camille as one of us. She joined the church choir, volunteered at the library, and painted scenes of the village that hung in the town hall. Luke was my anchor. He checked on me every day, brought me tea in the mornings, and sat with me in the evenings, talking about everything and nothing. He was the first to notice when I was struggling, the first to offer comfort. But even as we healed, the past lingered. I still received the occasional anonymous letter, sometimes a warning, sometimes a plea to stop digging. I kept them in a drawer, unsure whether to fear them or pity the person who sent them. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Camille handed me a small box. "I found this in my mother's things," she said. "I think it's for you." Inside was a locket, old and tarnished, with a photograph of Henry on one side and a lock of hair on the other. There was a note, written in Elise's elegant hand. "Margaret, I hope you can forgive me. I never meant to take Henry from you. I loved him, but I knew he belonged with you. Please take care of Camille. She is yours as much as she is mine. With love, Elise. I wept as I read the note, the weight of years of jealousy and pain lifting from my heart. I hugged Camille, holding her close, feeling the bond between us strengthen. As Christmas approached, we prepared for the holiday with a new sense of hope. We decorated the house with garlands and candles, baked gingerbread, and invited friends and neighbors to share in our celebrations. The old wounds still ached sometimes, but they no longer defined us. On Christmas Eve, we gathered in the church, the village choir singing carols, the air thick with the scent of pine and candle wax. Camille sang beside Sophie, their voices blending in harmony. Luke sat beside me, his arm around my shoulders, and for the first time in years, I felt truly at home. After the service, we walked home through the snow, the stars bright above us. We sat by the fire, exchanging gifts, sharing stories, and laughing until our sides ached. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about Henry, about Elise, about the choices we had all made. I realized that forgiveness is not a single act, but a journey, a choice we make every day to let go of anger, to embrace hope, to believe in the possibility of healing. The new year brought new beginnings. Camille started teaching art classes at the community center, sharing her talent and her story with others. Sophie expanded the bakery, adding a small cafe where villagers gathered to talk and laugh. Luke began dating a kind woman from the next village, his happiness infectious. I found purpose in volunteering at the church, helping organize events, visiting the sick and elderly, offering comfort where I could. I shared my story with other women, hoping it would help them find the strength to forgive, to heal, to move forward. But healing is never simple. There were still hard days, still moments when the pain of the past threatened to overwhelm us, but we faced them together, stronger for the love and forgiveness we had found. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old papers, I found another letter from Henry, hidden in the back of a drawer. Margaret, if you are reading this, it means you have found the truth. I am sorry for all the pain I have caused. I hope you can forgive me. I hope you can find peace. With all my love, Henry. I sat by the fire, the letter in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I thought about Henry, about Camille, about Luke and Sophie, about the family we had built from the ashes of the past. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give to ourselves. As spring approached, the garden bloomed with new life. Camille planted roses in memory of her mother, their fragrance filling the air. Sophie and Luke helped me tend the vegetables, their laughter echoing through the garden. We celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, invited friends for dinner, and planted bulbs for the next year. The pain of the past lingered, but it no longer defined us. One evening, as we sat in the garden, Camille turned to me. "Do you think he ever really forgave himself?" she asked. I thought about it for a long moment. I don't know, but I hope he knew we forgave him. She smiled, her eyes shining. I think he did, but as the days grew longer and the world turned green again, I found myself thinking about the future. I wondered what new challenges we would face, what new secrets might come to light. I knew there would be hard days, but I also knew we were strong enough to face them together, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful. Spring arrived in our village with a burst of color and hope. The garden Henry and I had planted so many years ago was alive with daffodils, tulips, and the first shy roses of the season. Camille spent hours outside, her hands in the earth, her face turned to the sun. Sophie brought pastries and tea, and Luke helped repair the old stone wall that bordered the property. For the first time in years, our home felt like a place of beginnings, not just endings. But even as the world bloomed around us, I felt the old ache of uncertainty. I still received the occasional anonymous letter, sometimes a warning, sometimes a plea to stop digging. I kept them in a drawer, unsure whether to fear them or pity the person who sent them. I wondered if there were still secrets left to uncover, or if the past would ever truly let us go. One morning, as I was tending the roses, Camille approached me, her face thoughtful. "Mamang," she said, the words still new and precious on her tongue. "I've been thinking about Elise, about her family. I want to know more. I want to find them, if I can." I nodded, understanding. "I'll help you. Whatever you need." We spent the next few weeks searching through old records, letters, and photographs. We found distant relatives, pieced together stories, uncovered a history that had been hidden for too long. Camille met cousins she never knew she had, learned about Elise's childhood, her dreams, her struggles. She found comfort in knowing she wasn't alone, that she was part of something bigger than the pain that had shaped her life. Sophie, too, was changing. She invited Camille to help at the bakery, teaching her the family recipes, laughing as they dusted each other with flour. The villagers, once wary, began to accept Camille as one of us. She joined the church choir, volunteered at the library, and painted scenes of the village that hung in the town hall. Luke was my anchor. He checked on me every day, brought me tea in the mornings, and sat with me in the evenings, talking about everything and nothing. He was the first to notice when I was struggling, the first to offer comfort. But even as we healed, the past lingered. I still received the occasional anonymous letter, sometimes a warning, sometimes a plea to stop digging. I kept them in a drawer, unsure whether to fear them or pity the person who sent them. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old papers, I found another letter from Henry, hidden in the back of a drawer. "Margaret, if you are reading this, it means you have found the truth. I am sorry for all the pain I have caused. I hope you can forgive me. I hope you can find peace. With all my love." Henry. I sat by the fire, the letter in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I thought about Henry, about Camille, about Luke and Sophie, about the family we had built from the ashes of the past. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give to ourselves. As spring deepened, Camille received an invitation to an art exhibition in Paris. One of her cousins had submitted some of her paintings, and they wanted Camille to attend as a guest of honor. She was nervous, unsure if she was ready to face the world as Elise's daughter, but I encouraged her to go. "You're stronger than you think," I told her. "And you're not alone." We traveled to Paris together, Sophie and Luke joining us for support. The exhibition was beautiful. Elise's paintings hung alongside Camille's, their styles different but their spirits the same. People stopped to admire the work, to ask questions, to share stories. Camille stood tall, her eyes shining with pride. She spoke about Elise, about the journey she had taken to find her, about the forgiveness and love that had brought her home. After the exhibition, we walked through the city, the four of us arm in arm. We laughed, we cried, we celebrated the family we had found in the ashes of the past. Back home, life settled into a gentle routine. The pain of the past lingered, but it no longer defined us. We learned to forgive, to let go, to cherish the moments of joy that came our way. One evening, as we sat in the garden, Camille turned to me. "Do you think Elise would be proud of me?" she asked. I smiled, squeezing her hand. "I know she would. She loved you, Camille." "She always did." Camille nodded, her eyes shining with tears. "I love you too, Margaret. Thank you for never giving up on me." I hugged her, holding her close. We found our way back together. That's all that matters. But as the days grew longer and the world turned green again, I found myself thinking about the future. I wondered what new challenges we would face, what new secrets might come to light. I knew there would be hard days, but I also knew we were strong enough to face them. Together, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful. But just as I began to believe in our new beginning, another letter arrived. This one was addressed to Camille, in a handwriting neither of us recognized. Camille, there are things you still don't know. If you want answers, meet me at the old church on Pentecost Sunday. A friend. Camille showed me the letter, her hands shaking. Should I go? She asked. I hesitated, fear and curiosity warring in my chest. I'll go with you, she nodded, relief in her eyes. On Pentecost Sunday, we drove to the old church, the world lush and green. The building was empty, the air thick with anticipation. We waited in silence, our breath visible in the cool air. A woman entered, her hair silver, her eyes kind. She introduced herself as Marie, a friend of Elise's. I promised Elise I would tell you the truth if you ever came looking, she said. We sat together in the pews, the church silent around us. Elise loved you, Camille. She gave you up because she thought it was best, but she never stopped loving you. She wrote to you every year, but your father never sent the letters. He was afraid you'd leave, afraid you'd hate him. Camille's eyes filled with tears. I wish I'd known. Marie handed her a bundle of letters, tied with a blue ribbon. These are yours. Elise wanted you to have them. Camille clutched the letters to her chest, sobbing. I hugged her, holding her close. You're not alone, Camille. You never were. That night, as we sat by the fire, Camille read Elise's letters. She cried, she laughed. She found comfort in the words of the mother she never knew. And I realized that forgiveness isn't just about letting go of anger, it's about embracing the love that remains, about finding hope in the ashes of the past. As the clock struck midnight, I looked around at my family. Look, Sophie, Camille, and I knew that we had found our way home. The days after Pentecost Sunday were filled with a quiet, almost sacred sense of discovery. Camille spent hours in her room, reading and rereading the letters from Elise. Sometimes she would emerge with red eyes and a trembling smile. Sometimes with a new question or a memory she wanted to share. I gave her space, but I was always there when she needed me, a silent witness to her journey of healing. One afternoon, she found me in the garden, where I was weeding the beds beneath the old apple tree. Maman, she said, her voice soft, can I read you something? I nodded, setting aside my gloves. She sat beside me on the grass, the bundle of letters in her lap. This one is from the year I turned 10, she said. Unfolding a page, Elise wrote, I watch you from afar, my darling girl, and I see your father's kindness in your eyes. I hope you know, even if I am not there, that you are loved beyond measure. I hope you will forgive me one day for the choices I made. Camille's voice broke, and I reached for her hand. She loved you, Camille. She did what she thought was best. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know. I just wish I could have told her I forgive her. I hugged her, holding her close. She knows. I believe she knows. Sophie and Luke were changing, too. Sophie had become fiercely protective of Camille, inviting her to every family dinner, insisting she help with the bakery's new recipes, and even teaching her how to drive. Luke, ever the peacemaker, organized a picnic by the sea, inviting Camille's newfound cousins and a few of the villagers who had once been wary. The day was filled with laughter, stories, and the kind of easy companionship that had once seemed impossible. The village itself seemed to be healing. The whispers faded, replaced by nods and smiles. Camille's art classes at the community center were full. Her paintings hung in the town hall, and her laughter was a familiar sound in the market square. But even as we built this new life, the past was never far away. The anonymous letters had stopped, but I sometimes caught a glimpse of a figure watching from across the street, or found a flower left on our doorstep with no note. I wondered if it was someone from Henry's past, or simply a villager who didn't know how to say they were sorry. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Camille shared another letter from Elise. My dearest Camille, if you ever find these words, know that I loved your father, and I loved you. I made mistakes, but I never stopped hoping you would find your way home. If you are reading this, I hope you have found Margaret. She is a good woman. Trust her. Let her love you. With all my heart. Mama and I wept as Camille read the words, the pain and hope in Elise's handwriting echoing my own feelings. I thought about all the years I had spent resenting Elise, blaming her for the pain in my marriage, for the secrets that had haunted us. Now, I saw her as a woman like myself, flawed, afraid, but capable of great love. As summer deepened, we planned a memorial for Elise. Camille wanted to honor her mother's memory, to say goodbye in a way she never could as a child. We invited her cousins, a few of Elise's old friends, and the villagers who had become our family. We gathered in the garden, beneath the apple tree, the air thick with the scent of roses and fresh-cut grass. Camille read a letter she had written to Elise, her voice steady and clear. Mamang, I forgive you. I love you. Thank you for giving me life, for loving me from afar, for trusting me to find my way. I am home now. I am safe. I am loved. We planted a rose bush in Elise's memory, its petals a deep, vibrant red. As we covered the roots with earth, I felt a sense of peace settle over Usa, sense that the past had finally been laid to rest. But healing is never a straight line. There were still days when the pain returned, sharp and unexpected. Sometimes Camille would wake from a nightmare, calling for me in the dark. Sometimes Sophie would snap at Luke, her old anger flaring. Sometimes I would find myself weeping for Henry, for Elise, for all the years lost to secrets and fear. But we faced these moments together, holding each other through the storms, reminding ourselves that we were not alone. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old boxes in the attic, I found a journal I had never seen before. It was Henry's, written in the last year of his life. The entries were short, sometimes just a sentence or two, but they were filled with longing and regret. I wish I had told the truth sooner. I am proud of my children, all of them. Margaret is stronger than she knows. I hope they forgive me. I read the journal aloud to Camille, Sophie, and Luke that evening. We cried together, but we also laughed, remembering Henry's quirks, his kindness, his love for us all. As autumn approached, Camille received an invitation to show her paintings in Paris. She was nervous, but we encouraged her to go. You are ready, I told her. You have found your voice. The exhibition was a success. Camille's paintings were praised for their emotion, their honesty, their beauty. She sold several pieces and was invited to teach a workshop at an art school in the city. When she returned home, she was radiant, her confidence shining. I feel like I finally belong, she said. Not just here, but in the world. I hugged her, proud and grateful. You always belonged, Camille. You just needed to see it for yourself. As the leaves turned gold and the air grew crisp, we prepared for another winter. We decorated the house with garlands and candles, baked gingerbread, and invited friends and neighbors to share in our celebrations. The old wounds still ached sometimes, but they no longer defined us. We had learned to live with them, to let them remind us of how far we had come. One night, as we sat by the fire, Luke read aloud from Henry's journal. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is letting go of the hope for a better past, and choosing, instead, to build a better future. We sat in silence, the words settling over us like a blessing. I found myself reflecting on everything we had been through, the betrayals, the heartbreak, the mysteries and revelations. I thought about the lessons I had learned, that love is messy and complicated, that forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, that family is not defined by blood alone, but by the choices we make every day. I thought about Henry, about Elise, about the secrets they had carried and the love they had left behind. I thought about my mother-in-law, about her strength and her courage, I thought about Camille, about the journey she had taken to find herself. I thought about Luke and Sophie, about the life we had built together. And I realized that, in the end, we were all survivors. We had weathered the storm, and we had come home. If this is the kind of story you understand all too well, you know where to find more Myla Story. But there was one last thing I needed to do. I gathered my family in the garden, beneath the old apple tree. We shared stories, laughter, tears. We remembered those we had lost, celebrated those we still had. We promised to always be honest, to always forgive, to always love. As the sun set, I looked around at my family, my children, my friends, and I felt a sense of peace I had never known. We had survived the storm. We had found our way home. The first frost of winter sparkled on the garden, turning every blade of grass and rosehip into a tiny work of art. I stood at the window, a mug of tea warming my hands, and watched the sun rise over the apple tree where so much of our story had unfolded. The house was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet, the kind that comes after a storm, when the world is washed clean and you can finally breathe again. Camille was up early, painting in the soft morning light. Her easel was set by the window, and I could see the beginnings of a new canvas, worlds of blue and gold, the promise of something beautiful. Sophie was in the kitchen, humming as she kneaded bread, her laughter drifting through the house. Luke was reading the paper by the fire, his face calm and content. For the first time in years, I felt truly at home. That afternoon, we gathered in the garden for a simple meal. The table was set with mismatched plates and wildflowers, the air filled with the scent of roasting chicken and fresh herbs. Camille's cousins had come from Paris, bringing stories and laughter. Sophie's friends from the bakery joined us, and Lutz's new love, Claire, fit in as if she'd always been part of our family. We ate, we talked, we remembered. We spoke of Henry and Elise, of the secrets that had once divided us, and the forgiveness that had brought us back together. We shared memories, some painful, some joyful, and we honored the people we had lost by living fully in the present. The sun set. Camille stood and raised her glass. To family, she said, her voice steady. To forgiveness, to finding our way home. We echoed her words, our voices strong and sure. Later, as the stars came out, I sat beneath the apple tree with Camille. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we watched the sky together. Do you think they're watching us? She asked softly. Henry, Elise, I smiled, squeezing her hand. I think they are, and I think they're proud. She nodded, her eyes shining with tears. Thank you, Margaret, for everything, for loving me, for forgiving me, for letting me be part of your family. I hugged her, my heart full. You are my family, Camille. You always will be. As the days grew shorter and the nights colder, we settled into a new rhythm. The pain of the past lingered, but it no longer defined us. We had learned to live with it, to let it remind us of how far we had come. Sophie's bakery flourished, her laughter a constant in our home. Luke and Claire planned a future together, their happiness infectious. Camille's art was celebrated in Paris and beyond, her story inspiring others to seek forgiveness and healing. And I found peace, not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of acceptance. I knew there would be more challenges ahead, more moments of doubt and fear, but I also knew we were strong enough to face them together. Before I say goodbye, if any part of this story has touched your heart, or if you've ever felt lost in your own family's secrets, please subscribe to Myla Stories. You're not alone. We're all healing together, one story at a time. On Christmas Eve, we gathered once more in the garden, candles flickering in the cold night air. We sang carols, shared stories, and promised to always be honest, to always forgive, to always love. As I looked around at my family, my children, my sister-daughter, my friends, I felt a sense of peace I had never known. We had survived the storm. We had found our way home. Goodbye for now, dear listener. And remember, sometimes the hardest stories have the most beautiful endings.